Welcome back to Narratives in Black. I'm your host, Amanda Shea. And if you joined us for part one, you already know Adrianna Boulin is a force shaping public health, social justice, and racial equity with purpose and passion. In this second part of our conversation, we go even deeper, unpacking the challenges of leading intersectional movements, the personal experiences that fuel her vision, and the lessons she's learned building spaces where marginalized communities don't just survive, but thrive. Let's pick up where we left off with Adrianna Boulin. Your work with Fenway makes a lot of sense too, because you said you wanted to be a doctor.
I know.
With your work with Fenway Health and have it driven such an impactful change in racial equity, social justice, and community engagement, but also for you, and also I feel like for people like myself who have never ventured into Fenway Health and how I feel that the culture is when I go in there. It is loving, it is warm, it is welcoming, especially for LGBTQIA plus folks. What has been one of the most rewarding moments in your career thus far with Fenway?
Yeah.
And where do you see a direct positive change as a result of your efforts? Now you have to give yourself flowers, because there's a second part of that. Because I know I can pinpoint so many different moments. We're gonna even say the Audre Lorde breakfast, but I want you to name that for yourself. So like, what has been one or more of the most like rewarding moments for you, and what is the direct positive impact you've seen at Fenway Health from your efforts thus far?
I've been thinking a lot about myself as a pollinator, specifically a bee.
You know I'm a flower girl.
Yes.
You know I love me some plants. So this definition is tea. Keep going.
Thank you.
And you be germinating. Okay, I could write a whole poem on like what you were about to say.
Oh, so I've been really thinking about how I'm a pollinator and support things catalyzing. And so in thinking about Fenway, there are two things that come up and they're related to this pollination. When I came to Fenway, it was after going through a really challenging year. I had gone to Jamaica for a couple months to care for my grandparents. One of my grandparents passed away. Thank you. It was challenging to just navigate the health system leading up to that, challenging to navigate family and business stuff after. And I had been away from the US for a couple months there, kind of navigating everything. And before leaving, I was pursuing a promotion where I was. And it went on pause because I had to be in Jamaica. And when I came back, they were like, I don't know if we can still move this forward because you've been able to be away for several months and the work has continued. So hearing that, I was like, okay, I need to find another place to go. I need to go to a place where I can grow and be valued. And so, thank you. So in getting to that place, I had this year of just recognizing like, wow, there is an opportunity for me to go to a place where I can be valued and seen. And this was also a year where I was engaged. And it was also in that year where I realized like there isn't alignment and we both deserve alignment. And so that was a time where I was like just changing and questioning a lot. Curiosity was coming back. So that curiosity that kind of dulled out in high school when I had to perform a lot more, felt like I had to perform more. Still curious, but it started coming back. And working at Fenway was so great because I was able to explore what first started exploring my sexuality, like realizing like I love everybody, I'm into everybody. So really being able to lean into that helped me lean into everything else. And I felt like it was a place I could work where I could like talk my talk and like feel like I could be respected and not judge and do my work. And so Fenway Health really brought out my authenticity. It catalyzed, it pollinated what was already there, but just, I needed the right.
Amplified it.
Yeah, I needed it to be amplified. And so that has been so important to me because being able to reach that place within myself has allowed me to create spaces where that's offered to other people. And so the second thing that's been so important to me is the relationships I've been able to foster and nurture, and in those relationships, what I've been able to pollinate or support. Like, I can't name one specific event. You mentioned Audre Lorde before, the Audre Lorde brunch that's bringing people together, that has a planning committee of dedicated volunteers that sit and dream together. You know, how do we want to honor the sentiment and power of this person, of this people? I'm thinking of the Bayard Rustin community breakfast,
gosh,
you know, and
yes.
how that is done. And our process of planning alone in and of itself is a program, is an initiative, it's community, you know, it's a family. And we like learning how to work with ourselves and navigate each other in the same way, a family, towards a shared goal. And Runway to Resilience and Healing, which was an event that happened in February. Like, we just the ability to build relationships with people and create together. Like, I've met you, and we've created together just
several times.
So I can't name one thing. It just, whenever I sit back and think about it, I'm just like, the ability to just bring together what already exists for someone, but in a way in which where they can see, we can see, like, this can come to form. It's tangible. It's something. It's in alignment. And so Fenway has helped continue to usher that into my life, and is something that has been able to propagate in the lives of other people. And then they continue, like a ripple effect, like water dripping into, you know, water there, that ripples out. And so it's just reverberating. And so.
And it's feeding so many other little baby plants.
Yes.
To make one big green tree. It's so beautiful. One thing I admire about Fenway Health is you don't expect the type of things that are cultivated inside the space, because it's so, like, it's medical.
Yeah.
So you think, okay, well, this is a medical institution. I'm coming in here to get checked out, to get mammograms, to get, you know, STI testing, all of these things. But what you don't anticipate is, like, wow, I can actually meet people in my community. I can grow with people in my community. I can learn things about pioneers within my community. Bayard Rustin is the perfect example of that, but also the Audre Lorde brunch is another beautiful example of that, because I've walked in the space, and even Giselle Bird from the Theater Offensive, who we've had on season 1, to see her in the space and bring her mama there and be in a space where LGBTQIA plus folks can navigate and commune with hetero folks as well, cis hetero folks as well. That's important to name, because we don't have a lot of spaces that are like that.
Yeah.
Where everybody is accepting of everybody, and it feels very inclusive and diverse at the same time. And we're being fed in so many different ways, whether it be with the program and the run of show, because the agenda is beyond point, but also fed in nourishment, the food. Y'all spread. Y'all don't be janky at all. It's so good. And even down to the music and how we can dance and vibe with each other after the program ends. It's such a beautiful space. And then also where you all do y'all events. Like, Fenway Health is so absolutely breathtaking in the ways in which that you can actually see the city all around us in these open windows. It's just really beautiful.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And you are the leader of that ship. I know you work with a team, and that's beautiful, because you're always the person who's like, it's not just me, y'all, it's everybody. However, in order to be able to delegate, like your grandmama,
Yes.
because that's hard. Some people are very much like their leaders, but the control of it all and the delegation and allowing folks to be able to have that freedom of expression while being able to do what they love, you don't always see that. And with you embody all of that. You allow people to show up authentically, and you always get feedback. It's not just like, this is what my vision is, it's what is our vision, and I'm willing to take everybody's vision and make it into this bigger thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that leads me into the next big vision, which is Boston Pride for the People.
Yes.
Like, as the president, this is your third year. Okay, third year. Wow. What is time?
Right, doesn't exist.
What is time?
Construct.
in your role for Boston Pride for the People, which has been absolutely phenomenal, and I do want to kind of go into the history of how you all kind of intercepted that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of folks don't know the real story behind that, and like, if you're not doing your history, we're going to teach you today, you're going to learn something. We know that Boston Pride for the People was not in the hands of the folks that it is now. So I want you to kind of go into that history, but you emphasize intersectionality and the empowerment of marginalized LGBTQIA voices. How do you see the future of Pride evolving? And what changes would you like to see within our LGBTQIA? And I say our.
Yeah.
Because I know you out and proud now.
Yes.
Which I had a feeling, but I was like, she gonna come around. But before I even get into that question, I do want to just put in the hat really, really quick that year that you went through.
Yeah.
I'm really, really sorry for your loss, and not just in with your grandparent, but also with your fiance. I think that sometimes when we grieve, we think of just transition. We don't think of like what our plans were for our life in that moment.
Yeah.
You know, because that's when we say fiance and we see ourselves with this person, that can be grief too when we no longer hold that ideology of what we thought our life was going to look like.
Absolutely.
So to grieve in that year, to lead to the transformation of where you are now, I'm sorry for that, but congratulations at the same time.
Thank you.
If that makes sense.
It does, totally. Absolutely. Because the I'm sorry is a recognition. Someone said something in a meeting a couple months ago, and I loved it. We were going through agreements or ground rules for a space, and they were like, if someone says something and it hurts, like acknowledge, like, ouch. So like, I'm sorry, I took that as a recognition, like it was hard, it hurt, validate that, and recognize it as alignment. Alignment doesn't always feel good, and I wish it always felt good and was comfortable and everyone still liked me after it, but the alignment is all the feelings. So received. Thank
and grieving
you.
is not, you're welcome, and grieving is not linear. Like,
Correct,
I'm
right.
sure there's still moments of like, you know, we always look back and be like, was this the right decision, and where am I gonna be at now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just wanted to honor that before we
you.
go into all of the beautiful things that led, through hardship leads us through the beautiful things on the other side of that, and we just
Totally.
don't know that in the challenge, in the face of the difficulties.
Absolutely.
So now I want to go back to the role of Boston Pride for the People, and like, where do you see the future going, and what are some things that you would love to see about the LGBTQIA community, and how was it intercepted into your hands?
Yeah. So there was a list of demands that community presented to the former organizers of Boston Pride after their lack of recognition of the senseless murder of George Floyd, and among several other just examples, evidence.
Sandra Bland. We had a lot of different,
a lot of different pointed out on just the change that needed to happen for the organization to be inclusive and to hold our communities in the way that they need to be held within all of our needs. And there were a lot of organizing happening where a lot of leaders, organizations were coming together first to prepare and draft these, but also to mobilize around like holding the organization accountable. And there were several meetings, several things that were presented to the organization, and it got to a point where the organization made the decision to dissolve, then to lean into the demands and thoughtfully thought out recommendations that were presented. I joined the efforts in coalition that I mentioned, where there were leaders and organizations. Maybe end of 2021. How I got there was Fenway Health was also at the coalition table.
Beautiful.
And my colleague Carl Shortino was a part of that coalition. I also was a Fenway Health representative. And so we were at that table of just how we do what we do for the community by being representatives. And there were several representatives. There are so many organizations that I can name, several that were at that table. And so now at the beginning of 2022, when we learned that there was space to create something new, we started thinking with each other for that year, you know, what's this something new? What do we create? And we thought through a lot of different things, which, you know, complex systems, which I think Earth is what this experience is. There are a lot of different ideas. There are things piloted. We piloted a smaller version of Pride. We thought about, you know, what does our communities need? You know, how do we support and hold each other? So we did a lot of thinking and are continuing to do that always. In September of 2022, we decided that we would come together and actually plan out the 2023 parade and festival. And it was amazing. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And if I did, maybe I would have been like, okay, maybe this isn't something that I should lead. And I was remiss, someone pointed on my shoulder. I was there as a Fenway Health representative originally in the coalition, but there was a point where they were considering like, okay, who wants to lead this? And I was very much taking a step back in that space. One, because I had only attended Pride for the first time in 2019.
Wow.
And so in my brain, I'm like, I'm not worthy, or whatever narrative I had in my mind. And Reina Isagiri Boersma and Paul Glass was like, you need to be in those meetings. You need to be a part of this. I don't care what you think. Like, they poured into me. And is really what inspired me to say, okay, I'll sit at the table, I'll think with you all, and it led to what was a successful Pride in 2023 and 2024,
Sure
and where we are 2025. When you ask where I see us going in the future, we created and continue to create something that we want everyone to be able to be a part of, everyone in our LGBTQI plus communities. And when I think of the future, there's this young person that was captured by one of our media partner, and they were like, this is my first Pride, this is so exciting, I can be here with my girlfriend, I can be so free. And I just so much light. And what I see is that young person being the president, that young person being able to define what they and others in the community want Pride to be. Right now, what is at the foundation of our work is empowerment, education, commemoration, and celebration. That is what we need in our context right now.
Right.
And the world may change. I would like the world to continue to change, and I would like for us to be able to expand to different things that we focus on. But that's what I see. I see that young person being here and knowing they belong, and continuing to create something that communities can be a part of.
I love that you said that young person, and they can be free and liberated. And I know that you see that in little Adrianna, who felt like you always wanted to be free, but sometimes couldn't be because it had to be performative. I love that Pride allows folks, and for you to even see that in other young people, to be able to have that liberation within themselves. Unfortunately, we are in a climate that is trying to suppress all of our liberties, especially for young folks. I grieve for them a lot of the time, because not only did you name like 2020 and COVID, right, which was a really tumultuous year for everybody. People lost a lot of different people. People were displaced. People lost jobs over not getting vaccinated and having the choice whether or not to get vaccinated. And then when we think about that, it's just like there's politics even over the body. So how do you feel like in the Trump administration, watching him roll back Roe versus Wade and just trying to dismantle the Department of Education, to dismantling reproductive justice rights, because that affects our community for sure. And I know, like, initially when the reproductive rights conversation came up, and people were like, well, this is a woman issue in birth and abortion, and it's like, no, this is an all of us issue, because what's next? Tea medication, PrEP? What is next in our future that will be rolled back, or we won't have the access to, or the liberty of just being able to be our true authentic selves? How do you feel right now in the climate of our communities, our social climate?
how I feel, I'm not accessing the feeling yet. It will come. What is coming up first is that we live in a society that allows for so much to be undone. Like, just, yes, it's an injustice what this person in the administration is doing, and we live in a society where it was possible.
We're allowing it.
Like, allowing it. And so, feeling still is not here. The thinking mind is going. That sticks with me. Like, we live in a societal system where it was allowed. So the system needs to change. And I wouldn't choose for this to happen, particularly with everything that it leaves our communities vulnerable to, impacts and lives that have already changed. And so I want to name that. I'm grounding myself, my work, and my community in protection, and empowerment, and organization. And I say organization because a colleague of mine, Craig Andrade, love him. Love him. He said the other day, and it hit me, we were in a board meeting, we're on the board for Massachusetts Public Health Alliance. He said, organized lies are more powerful than disorganized truths.
Ooh, that is a bar.
A bar. And so that is why organization is so important to me. So I think now I'm accessing the feeling. How I feel is like anticipatory. There's something in my body, like, we have to change,
Absolutely.
right? Because what we're in allowed for this to happen. We need to create something that will not allow this to happen. And so the visual I have to close this out, the response to this question, is a slingshot, is like the pullback. And I just, again, would not ask for this pullback. Like, what we're seeing is egregious in our world right now, in our country right now. And I think it's a pullback. And we're gonna propel. Like, this is a season, I see it, like, and in this pullback where we are going back, I'm just focused on protection, empowerment, organization. Protection, empowerment, organization, to get through this moment, because we are propelling forward.
We are.
Into a different system.
Absolutely. I think the power lies also in our young people.
Yes.
And how we...
It does, yeah.
How we equip them, right? Because, like, I hate to say it, but I'm an 80s baby. And I feel like some of the generation before me, to a certain degree, didn't equip us in our era to be able to protect, to organize, in the ways in which that you're speaking about right now.
Yeah.
So I feel like we were in a space of like, oh my God, it's AIDS epidemic. Oh my God, oh my God, like
survival
war on
mode.
Crime, drugs in the community. Everything was survival. I always tell people I wasn't raised on love, I was raised on survival. So to be able to thrive now as an adult took a lot of dismantling of not only the things that I was taught, but the things that I was willing to understand. And I think right now we're in a really beautiful space, especially in Boston. I want to name that because you named somebody that I go to all the time, which is Paul Glass, who will light that fire under you in a quick second.
Like, I see you.
Yes, so see yourself. And must.
Yes.
And it's interesting because we also, as we were walking in this morning, Letta Neely also called the phone. So it's like, when I'm thinking about our elders in the community, our Auntie Ife, who was also on season 1, I think about their understanding and also their acknowledgement of maybe we should have been doing a little bit more. And even though we were doing as much as we possibly could, we realized, like, we need to do even more than what we were doing. And now we need to ensure that the younger people are geared up to take that challenge on and that mission, you know. And I love Leta's apprentice learning program because, you know, you see that in that, or Auntie Ife's, you know, the Unmonument projects and the way in which that she brings in our history of, you know, the slave cabins and things like that with her art and showing the history, because in order for you to know where to go, you have to understand where we came from.
Absolutely.
And because we know that our educational systems do a terrible job with arming us with our true history, and Black culture, Black history is always under attack and constantly being erased, I feel like now we're in a pivotal moment where I'm now, I said 80s baby, where I'm now looking to the younger generation like, wait, but you're not the future, you're actually the present.
Totally.
You know, you high school students from 13 through 18, you are the next us.
Yeah.
How are we feeding and mobilizing to help you all have the tools so that the generation behind y'all can ensure that we still propel forward like that slingshot that you named?
Yes.
Because if not, we're going to keep rolling back and allowing what we see in what I frankly like to call a dictatorship.
Yeah. Because
because that's what his administration, it seemingly seems like, is moving into, where you don't have a voice, you are silent, and we have all the power and we're gonna make the rules. No, it's power to the people, there's strength in numbers. But if those people don't understand that they have the power within their own hands, how will they ever take it back?
Period.
With that being said, as the former national coordinator of the APHA affiliates JEDI group, what key barriers have you encountered while advocating for justice? Because we're kind of talking about that now. So we understand that there are still barriers within the advocation of justice, but equity and diversion and even inclusion. We're watching DEI initiatives. We're watching the NEA roll back all of their funding if the words are even mentioned: diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're seeing all of that. So what are some things that you've experienced as far as barriers in that on a national scale, and how have you worked to overcome them and plan to keep overcoming them?
On a national scale, the same thing that has been a barrier has also been a way to overcome. What has been a barrier, a moment that I had on that working group was realizing that every state, and this was pre the election in November and January 20th of this year, this meeting came before that, and it was recognizing that different states were in different contexts. And so what we are advocating for, like in Massachusetts, we shifted money from the police budget into advancing our equity work further. Places in the South are not moving money from the police budget.
Right.
And so I'm naming that as an example, one, just because we had different problems. Like the problem is equity, justice, but when you look in the context, we're working from different places. And so sometimes it's hard because it's like, okay, you need to get together with people who are having some of the same issues as you. But that also has helped us overcome it, because where they might be at in Arkansas or in Oregon now is what we can say we did and navigated, in the 90s. And I don't know that specifically. I'm just throwing that as an example.
It's an example.
And so, well, thank you for validating. What has helped us is to, going back to what you mentioned of understanding where we came from, how we got to this point, even understanding that of a state that was once where you were or started where you were can help you take that into your context. So it's understanding the context and thinking about what learnings from the lineage can support the future of other states that are working on this work now.
And policy advocation as well, because I think a lot of it, when we think of politics and, legislation and senators and all that stuff, when I talk to my kids, my students, they're like, boring, boring, boring. But it's like, no, those things matter.
They do. We can do all the change around equity we want. If we still have laws that are causing the inequity, we will constantly have to. So the policies, we have to change it because the policies have to support the equity and justice work. So it's so important. I didn't understand the importance of that until becoming a professional, like a older adult, like the adult I am now.
And
I
that's
didn't realize
hard, right? Because we're learning as we go.
Right.
And as somebody who was a poli-sci major and criminal justice major, I didn't learn that until I went to undergrad.
Right.
I didn't realize, like, oh, wow, we can vote people in that support the things that we actually want to see. Now, I'm not saying that I'm pro-government. At the same time, I do want to name that, like, we do have power because those people get in because we vote.
Right.
We have that. That's in our hands. And if we're not having these conversations openly and we don't know who the council men and women are out there, or I should just say council people in general, we're never going to get to that space of this lawmaker now is going to put this in where this detrimentally affects the larger population.
Exactly.
Larger demographic, especially for LGBTQIA folks. You know, one thing I do want to name, as we're talking about Massachusetts, like, I feel like Massachusetts is the only state that I am aware of that has an LGBTQIA plus advancement office in their city hall, in their state. You know, I don't see that happening in Houston or Chicago or Baltimore or Philly. So we do have privilege here in Massachusetts where we live in a state that is very much, and I'm going to say this in quotes, liberal. But we also have the power to change a lot. And also having a governor, a lieutenant governor, and a mayor who are heavily advocating for arts and advocacy, which I believe arts is one of the main ways of changing people's, you know, ideologies in their mindset as far as what power is, what understanding is, and also what love and equity is as well.
I agree. They're mediums in which we can facilitate those things and share them.
And you do that at Fenway Health, but you also do that at Boston Pride for the People, where we're celebrating joy. We're celebrating our existence. We're celebrating the fact that we have come this far and we're here and we're able to be out loud with that because we're not going anywhere.
Yep, still here.
We're still here. Working with someone who, or I should say as someone who is deeply committed to the well-being and the human connection, what self-care practices or rituals do you prioritize to maintain balance and purpose in your life? Because you wear so many different hats. And you just named that you were in a board meeting, and I'm just like, I really just want to ask Adrianna, like, what else do you do?
Yeah.
Because you do a lot, but how do you self-care? How do you practice self-care? And what are some of the rituals you take to balance out your mental health?
Ooh, thank you. I love talking about these practices. There are a lot of practices that help me connect to source, that thing that I think we are all extensions of, that I get my power and light from. I love waking up and saying thank you.
Gratitude.
Yeah, love waking up and saying thank you. I am a certified Reiki practitioner.
Ooh.
And I practice on myself every morning, and that's a way that keeps me balanced. I practice yoga in the morning. I have agreements that I repeat, just things to remind myself of who I am and what opportunities exist throughout my day, and that I am worthy and deserving, and all the things that I know myself to be but want to remind myself of. Also breathing.
Breath work is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many other things. I could create a whole list, but just I prioritize practices to get me back to a place of balance.
I love that. And I'm so glad that we asked that question, because a lot of the time, as people who wear a lot of hats with the societal climate right now, it's like sometimes just having that, how do we come back to self?
Yeah. And I think that's an act of resistance, right?
Absolutely.
Because
Rest
the system
is resistance.
Rest is resistance. Absolutely. System doesn't want us to be regulated.
No, because even with food, like the more healthier the mind, body, and spirit, the more active you're going to be.
Right.
The more open you're going to be, the more aware and self-aware you will be.
Yeah.
So it's really important because we can experience burnout. You know, a lot of this work is exhausting. You're integrating your life with all of these roles, but also so much of your being. That's a lot of energy transference.
Yeah.
And we hold some of that onto ourselves as well. You know, we carry other people's energy even home with us.
Yeah.
So how do we go home into the doorway and cross the threshold of our own door and be able to put that down?
Yeah, before bed, one of the things I say is, you know, sending the energy that doesn't belong back to me to the people, individuals, places
Yes,
that
return to
belongs.
sender is always
Yeah,
cute.
always before bed. Just recognizing that. And even, you know, if I feel like I'm stepping into my home and it's there and I need it to return, I might say it at that moment too. Return to sender.
I could sit here and talk to you all day. I've learned so much about you outside of just what I've already known. So thank you for being so open. I have one more question.
Yeah.
For the next generation of public health leaders, advocates, and activists, what advice or wisdom would you offer as they embark on their own journey towards equity and justice?
I would highly encourage people to do the same work that they're doing outside on the world, inside. I really prioritize my inside work, and my inside work really reflects outside in the world. And I think prioritizing our inner work and recognizing our inner world is really important. And so I would definitely invite people to do that.
For folks struggling on where to start doing their internal work, because we hear that phrase a lot, and as we spoke about before, not everybody has that voice inside that self-reflects or is introspective. What is a tool that they could utilize to be able to have that, or to even start doing the internal work that they need to do?
I would say community. While I'm naturally a self-reflective person, I remember during the pandemic, I'm also yoga teacher certified, 200 hours, and I remember taking the training during the pandemic on video with like 80 people all across the US, and it was when I was just starting, it was when I was really deepening my journey of understanding my inner world, and people were sharing books that resonate with them, practices that resonate with them, and it just helped to be in community. I'm in several groups right now where we're just encouraging each other on each other's spiritual journey and tapping in whenever. And so there's not one practice I would highlight because we're all different.
Absolutely.
And I think what we might be able to access in a certain point in time is different. Reading is not a medium of healing that I accessed a lot as a young person. I'm doing so much of it now, and it's so surprising. So just different mediums may resonate at different times in life, but being in community has really helped that. I'm even thinking about Reiki certification. Being in that community, I've learned about different practices, just ways of thinking. So just community is really helpful. And it's if you can access, and community can be one other person.
Absolutely. Outside of just yourself.
Outside of just yourself. And there's an inner community. I feel like there's a whole inner world, but just community, even if just with one person.
I lied, I have one more question.
I'm here for it.
Before we go, because I think this is really important to name too, because we were naming elders in our community who we look up to, which it's weird to even call Paul Glass or Letta Neely or Ife Franklin even elders, because they're so young in spirit.
Totally.
And have so much life ahead of them. Who are some of your go-to mentors when you are really under pressure, you feel like you need some kind of direction, or even just a piece of advice, or even just to hear their voice.
Yeah.
Who are some of those folks that you kind of lean into?
There are three, oh my gosh, there's so many people coming to mind. So many people coming to mind. Reverend Irene Monroe.
Oh my gosh. I love Reverend Irene. Girl.
Reverend, everyone I'm like, so there's so many people that are coming to mind, but I'll just uplift these two individuals because I received the same thing in different ways from both of them. Reverend Irene Monroe and Gary Bailey. I can say or express myself in what I may judge in the moment as chaos or a mess, and they're like, oh yeah, boom, this is what you, and I'm like, how did you see that? Like, how did you understand me? And then just here is what you need as you continue what you thought was chaos, but is really like beautiful, is really art, is you, is yourself. I just, whenever I speak to them, it's just I can say and be whatever, and it's translated. It's like it's brought through a system, and their wisdom is just like beep beep and yes, understood. Let me reflect back who you are. And the same thing that we said about Paul Glass. This is who you are. See who you are. Just I've always really valued that. In our elders, and so many people embody that. Those are just two individuals that are coming up on my mind right now.
No, those are two really great examples. I'm glad that you uplifted Gary Bailey's name and Reverend Irene. They both embody exactly what we were talking about all these other folks, where it's like they can just see the situation, not only see the situation, give you a solution about the situation, but also help you breathe life back into yourself is major key. And I think we all need to have people like that around us. I think one of the things, or one of the main points that I love about teaching is telling my students, find mentors, and it's okay, even if they're a couple years older than you. People assume that mentors have to be older than you. One of my beautiful mentors is Kat Morris, and believe it or not, Kat is younger than me. So it's like sometimes it's just the people that you trust, the people that know you and can sometimes see you before you see yourself.
Totally.
I think that's so important. Adrianna, you are a powerhouse. You are a force. You have so much more work ahead of you. You are a community outlet. You are the pure embodiment of what grace, what authenticity, what love, and what understanding is. I love how open-minded you are. I love, outside of the work, who you are, how you show up for yourself and others. I loved listening to your story today. I absolutely adore you, and you know this. Thank you so much for being on our podcast,
Thanks for
Narratives in Black. Is there anything that you would like for the audience to know before we head out?
Just love. That's what's coming up, is love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes our interview and this podcast episode with Adrianna Boulin. Please stay tuned for our next episode. We love season 2. I am your host, Amanda Shea, and we will be back very soon. So like, share, and subscribe on all platforms. And we can cut.